Does Labour have a problem with anti-Semitism? Some MPs and activists within the party certainly think so, and they're now campaigning to toughen the rules on it, as well as on Islamophobia and racism. Now, we've been told by Labour that they welcome the contributions of affiliates and members in this important debate. Rule changes can be submitted to Labour's annual conference, where they are democratically agreed by delegates. Well, Jonathan Sacerdoti is from the Campaign Against Antisemitism, is on the line. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
Thank you for your time this morning. Is this a really serious problem for Labour? Do they have a problem with anti-Semitism?
We seem to be seeing in the newspapers and on TV, week in, week out, news stories of anti-Semites within the Labour Party, whether it's Aytagul Gurbaz, the Luton councillor who said that she thought Hitler was the greatest man in history and that she wished to see Iran wipe out another 6 million Jews with a nuclear weapon, or whether it's Lord Nazir Ahmed a few years ago who said that he thought that his conviction for dangerous driving, which resulted in the death of another man, was made particularly harsh because of Jewish people who owned the press, or whether it's Vicky Kirby who said that Jews have big noses, or whether it's Jerry Dowling who also came out with Jew hatred in his public statements quite openly. Again and again we're seeing these things coming out, and people are asking why the Labour Party seems to have within its ranks those who spread Jew hatred.
Well, why are we hearing about this now? Because it's not something that happens overnight, surely.
No, it's not at all, and some of these people's views are historic as well as current. I think it's coming out now because people are noticing that all over Europe life is getting harder for Jewish people, and unfortunately the deaths and systematic murder of Jewish people in terror incidents around Europe has become far more frequent, whether it's the killing of Jewish shoppers in a kosher supermarket in Paris, or whether it's the gunning down of Jews in the Brussels Jewish Museum, or children and a rabbi in a Jewish school in Toulouse. The list goes on, unfortunately. And with that has come an increased migration of Jewish people away from Europe. The number of Jewish people who've left Western Europe, for Israel, for example, last year was at its record high since the aftermath of the Holocaust. When people hear about numbers like that, and they hear about the concerns of Jewish people, even within Great Britain, who are deeply concerned that this Jew hatred shouldn't take root, it's understandable that they're calling out anti-Semitism and Jew hatred wherever they see it, whether that's in the Labour Party or other political parties.
So what's about Jeremy Corbyn's role? Because he's the leader. He's got to obviously stamp this out and lead.
Indeed he does, and plenty of people, when he was standing to be the leader of his party, called out some of his connections and associations in the past, from calling Hamas and Hezbollah friends and inviting their representatives to speak in Parliament, or supporting Raed Salah, who also has spread the ancient blood libel against Jews that claims that Jews kill Christian children to use their blood in their food. Ridiculous slurs like this. He, of course, came out and said he has no time for anti-Semitism and racism, which is something we welcome. But now members of his own party, like Wes Streeting MP, are calling for a change in the rules, because these condemnations and mild suspensions, let's say, which often result in readmission to the party later on, are just not enough to show that the party is serious about getting rid of the racists.
But you mentioned about Hamas, but I mean, you go back further, and they were quite close to the IRA. They will say they were working, to try and defeat terrorism. But you have to talk to people of all sides. I mean, can't you understand where they come from?
Well, personally speaking, I know that Hamas, within its charter, has a stated, declared aim of genocide for all Jewish people. So personally, I can't get behind an organisation that says that. But whether we're looking at the specifics of Mr Corbyn's own connections to people like that, or Paul Eisen, the Holocaust denier, whose event he was at and he said he may have given money to during that election campaign, whether we're looking at those instances or whether we're looking at any of the others that have come out in recent weeks from other members of the party, one thing is certain, that simply saying that these things aren't acceptable isn't enough. And now members of the party itself, and in fact plenty of other voices like Danny Cohen, the former head of BBC TV, who spoke out in the last couple of days about anti-Semitism within the Labour Party, saying that a Jew voting for Labour would be like a Muslim voting for Donald Trump at the moment, or whether it's the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Lord George Carey, who in a speech in New York a couple of weeks ago said that unless the party toughens up its reaction to anti-Semitism, it is unfit to govern. There are plenty of voices from from within and outside the Labour Party, saying that it has a problem and that part of that problem is its reaction to anti-Semites as well as having them within the party. It needs to make it perfectly clear to all of Britain, not just to Jewish people, that Jew hatred is absolutely unacceptable within the party, within society and within the country. And that can only be done through much tougher sanctions on those people who are found to have these disgusting opinions and to spread them in society, feeling that they're acceptable.
OK, Jonathan, thank you for your time this morning. Jonathan Sacerdoti from the Campaign Against Antisemitism, speaking here on Sunday Breakfast.
BBC Radio Bristol.
Thank you, Richard. Now, did you know something about Ian?